Squid Game on Netflix was pretty good, just the ending sucked. But before I get into my review of this series, consider this your spoiler warning because I will be talking spoiler-ish. So consider this your warning. So I really enjoyed it. This, if you're not familiar with it, is a South Korean production and it's very well done. So basically the premise or the plot goes that these people down on their luck are in this game where they're going to win around 42 billion won, which roughly turns into 32 million American. And it's basically Saw meets Hunger Games meets well, basically that's it. I mean, you could there's a lot of these type of movies out there, so just insert whatever you think, or what you like about these kind of games. But it's a little bit morbid, but it's a little bit of a challenge, and it's just meant to test these contestants on childish games, but with a chance to win a lot of money. So we're introduced to like 6 characters that we kind of care about, and it takes us from the beginning all the way to the 9th episode. And again, there's a part in it where, so basically anyway, so back to the kind of the plot of it was that these guys are people, women and men, husbands and wives and stuff like that, just normal people that are down on their luck, that need some extra money, maybe coming out of jail, just having tough time, that owe a ton in taxes, just have a ton of debt. So this is a way that they can win millions and millions of dollars to pay off their debt, start living a life that they could only dream of. And so at the end we find out that it's a bunch of Americans or a bunch of billionaires and trillionaires that are basically hunting men and women or just humans for sports. And that's basically the premise. I could go more into detail, but it's just the same thing, repetitive, and we get introduced to more of the human element. The show does a very good job in making us invested into these characters, and being a foreign film, that's tricky to do, right? Because they are catering to their public, but with the back thought of saying, hey, this is going to also go international. And I thought they did a really good job. I was hooked from the first episode all the way to the 8th episode. The 9th episode was a complete miss and a waste of time and backwards treading, which was unfortunate for a very, very good series to end on such a bad note, at least for me. So we get introduced to the main character, and he goes all the way up to the end and he wins it, right? But then what was a turnoff to me was that he was going to do, and I don't want to spoil it too much, but he was going to defeat the last opponent. But then when he had defeated him and he was going to cross that line, he then turns and doesn't want to finish the job, even though an episode earlier he was willing to go through with an action to be the winner or to solidify himself with a friend that he has made. And maybe that's the point of it, that it's a player that chooses humanity, but he really doesn't. There's a huge twist towards the end, but when he's there with the old man and he cheats on the marble game, that the consequences of that one, he cheated. So the way they ended it was just super disappointing, and the twist was cheap. You see that in most cliches and stuff like that. The soundtrack was very repetitive. They could have mixed it up, especially when it was like the sad piano track. They must have played that ad nauseum with this series. Now, I would prefer stuff like this to be in a movie, maybe a 2.5 hour movie. And I think they could have compressed it and told the same story with just more shock value than what this is. I'm not a fan of series or concept of these being turned into a series because your pacing is so off. Even though, like I said earlier, I was engaged with this series and it did a very good job of it, but it gave me time to look at my phone, to do other things while watching this series, because there was just lulls that you could hear it while cooking or hear it while picking up around, where your TV is in the living room or whatnot, or in your bedroom, and you wouldn't miss much, and you only really wanted to see it for the creativeness of the depths, right? And how kind of PlayStation it was, which, mind you, that's all I thought. Did anybody else think about PlayStation because of the symbols, which isn't a great endorsement or product placement for PlayStation? At least the symbolism. PlayStation has nothing to do with it. Even the symbols is just the controllers, the triangle, square, circle, and X. But we all associate that with PlayStation, so it wasn't the best thing. But all in all, I found it entertaining. It's 10 hours of your life. So be prepared, or roughly around 10 hours of your life, to invest in a series. I think it's worth it, but be prepared for the very disappointing ending, at least for me. I'm sure other people will think of it as it was a brilliant show. Some might not like it. I know a lot of people don't like the dubbing. I thought the voice acting was okay. It depends on what character you're following, whether you think the voice acting was good or the voice acting was bad. But I enjoyed the acting of the actual characters, their mannerisms, the way they expressed in their facial expressions. I thought they did an amazing job, and hats off to the South Korean production crew that put this together. Even though for my taste, I would rather have a movie, not a series, and I would have compressed a lot of it myself, but I thought they did an amazing job in making a product that reaches a lot of people, and it's been #1 since Friday, the whole weekend. So they, hats off to them. So enjoyable, but with a disappointing ending. So my rating for this series will be a B-. Still strong rating, but the pacing, like I said, the voiceover, just way too much lagging in areas, but still compelling enough to keep you intrigued. And again, I was intrigued from episode 1 to episode 8, with just a little disappointing ending. But anyways, those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts down in the comments. And like always, that's a wrap.